morning, guys. Thanks for checking out my channel. So today is a pretty exciting day. I'll just go ahead and show you guys why. So yesterday we got our block back from the shop. A big shout out to Sunwest Automotive in Medical Lake, Washington for getting this motor put together for me. I had them go ahead and assemble the short block because I did not feel comfortable doing it since I was not the one to take it apart. So even though we don't have the heads back, today we can get a couple things done. Over here we got our Killer Bee oil pickup, our Killer Bee oil baffle, and we got our oil pan we can get on there. Also we can throw on our oil pump and our water pump. These are the old ones. I just have them out here, so I got the bolts and everything. So I'm hoping I can get all that done today, and then maybe tomorrow or the next day we'll get our heads back. So we got JE pistons, we got Manley rods. They actually had to swap out blocks with me. The cylinder bore on my block was a little too big for the pistons, so they swapped it out with this block. So I'm pretty happy about that. They got the crank all polished up and ready to go. So overall, I'm pretty happy. It really wasn't too expensive, not as much as I thought it was going to be. She looks pretty good. I did not plan on having it painted black. They went ahead and did that. So that's fine with me. I guess it'll cover up any leaks, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because I would like to be able to see my oil leaks, or if I have any, which hopefully I don't, as long as I get this thing put together right. So anyways, let's get this show rolling. I'm gonna get the heater started in here. It's a little cold, and we'll set up these cameras and see what we can get done today. All right, so I'm gonna start with wiping all this extra oil off here. Looks like we got some ARP rod bolts in here too. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start with our oil baffle here. All of this should be relatively simple. So your oil baffle is just gonna go right in. It's just gonna go right in here. We're gonna put that bolt and that bolt in, and then the oil pickup will go in here, and these two. So let's get that torqued down real quick. All right, we got our first two bolts on there. Then we're gonna grab our oil pickup and we gotta make sure and put the O-ring on there. And then that's just going to sit right on there. Just like that. Bolt there, and two right here. All right, so our baffle is, these bolts are gonna be torqued down to 57 inch-pounds. So let's get that set up here, 57. Not very much. So these two bolts are gonna be the same. They're gonna be 4.7. And then the two over here for the oil pickup, those are gonna be 7.2 foot-pounds. Let's get those started. This one over here started. And then these two bolts over here, they're actually a little bit longer than the rest. All right, I think we're in a pretty good spot, so go ahead and torque these down. And then, like I said, these ones are gonna go to 7.2. All right, there we go. There's the baffle and the oil pickup are on. Now we need to move on to the oil pan. All right, so for the oil pan, first thing I'm gonna do, throw a little brake clean on a rag and just go around and make sure we don't get any of that crap in there. We're gonna go around and just clean off the surface where the oil pan is gonna sit. It's obviously already pretty clean. All right, then we're gonna come over here and we're gonna do the same thing. I already scraped most of this crap off of here, so we should be good, and cleaned out the oil pan. You gotta make sure you put your O-ring right here. This tube right here is for the vent for the crankcase. And today we're gonna go with the Permatex Ultra Gray for our gaskets, our gasket maker. And what we wanna do is we wanna just put a bead all the way around, go on the inside of all the bolts, all the holes. And then we'll come back through and then we'll smooth that out. All right, we got our bead all the way around, so then we're just gonna take it and just smooth it out all the way around. All right, we got our Ultra Gray on here. We got it all smoothed out all the way around. We got our O-ring on. So now we can bring it over here and throw it on the motor. The packaging says to immediately put it on and finger tight the bolts. And then it says to wait an hour for it to set up before we actually torque them down. Let's do that real quick. See if we can do this without making a mess everywhere. Just like that, all our bolt holes line up. All right, that's on there. I'm gonna go ahead and put all the bolts in and get them finger tight, and then we can move on to the next thing. All right, I got all these oil pan bolts on there. They're not torqued down. The Ultra Gray, it says to tighten it until it starts to kind of come out a little bit, which is about finger tight. And then we're supposed to wait for an hour, and then we can come back through and torque all these down. So I think I'm going to move on to, the oil pump, because that also is going to have to set up for an hour. So we'll do that next, and then we can put on the water pump. All right, here's our oil pump. Get this thing out of here. Some O-rings. I'm gonna have to put this, the oil pump seal in. In here, it's just gonna go in flush. And then we have our O-rings here. For the oil pump, I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of a different looking O-ring. It kind of has a ring and then a little tiny one on the inside, and that's gonna sit right here and go up against the block. I'll show you that when I actually go to install it. So let's get seal in there, and then we'll clean up this mating surface on the oil pump and the mating surface on the block. Throw some silicone on there, get our O-ring on there, can't forget that, and get the bolts on there so that it can cure, and then we can torque it down. All right, we got the seal in place there. It's nice and flush. I'm sure that's probably not the best way to do it with a hammer, but I was really careful. I didn't mark anything up and everything looks good. So I'm going to clean this surface up right here. And then also we're gonna clean this up right here where the oil pan goes, or the oil pump goes, and get it siliconed and get it on there. Spray a little brake clean on there. That's nice and clean. Let's go over here and clean up on the bolt. It's all cleaned up. That extra paint they got on there. All right, now we got our little O-ring here. I'm just gonna put a little bit of the Ultra Gray on it so that it'll stay in place when we put the oil pump on. Just enough to hold it right on there. All right, now we can come over here and apply the Ultra Gray along here. Okay, just like we did with the oil pan, I went ahead and put a bead all the way around and smoothed it out. So now we just need to come over here and throw it on there, put the bolts in, and then we need to wait an hour before we can torque it all the way down. All right, we got the oil pump on there. So what I didn't mention before was to put a little bit of oil around the crank right here and on the inside of this seal. And then also there's these two little pieces. They look like this. One's gonna go in right down here on the bottom in that little groove, and then another one goes up here in that little groove, just to keep anything from running down off the top of the motor. So these are going to get torqued down to 4.7, I believe. We need to wait until the sealant cures for an hour. So we can move over here to the water pump. That should be a little easier. It actually comes with a gasket instead of using the sealant, so we can get that on there real quick. And then I think I'm probably going to have to run to the hardware store to pick up a couple bolts and some miscellaneous stuff. I think I need to get a thermostat and the thermostat gasket. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this water pump on there. All right, there's our water pump. We got it out. We got our gasket and this little side seal here, and it actually came with a thermostat gasket, so that's awesome. We're not gonna have to buy one of those. So I'm gonna do an oil cooler delete. I don't need the line that runs from the water pump over to the oil cooler and then the oil cooler to the block. So the difference on these pumps here, this water pump has this port right here, and this one does not have the port. Besides that, it's the exact same. So that's just, it's one less thing that we have to worry about going bad. The shop I talked to, they recommended just getting rid of the oil cooler / oil warmer altogether. It will take the oil a little bit longer to warm up when I first start the car, but other than that, I don't think the temperatures are going to be any higher. But I'm going to monitor those once I get the car together anyways, and we'll see what happens. If the oil does start running a little warmer than I'd like it, then I'll just put an aftermarket oil cooler in. But for now, we're going to get this water pump on there. It should be pretty fast and pretty simple, so let's do that real quick. All right, so we got our little gasket on here, or our little seal. It just sits right here on the side. So we got to get this gasket to stay on there while we put this on. So a little trick I learned to go ahead and take this gasket, put it on there, and take screwdrivers, and we'll put the screwdrivers through there like this, and then they'll just slide into these holes, which will hold the gasket right where it needs to go so we can get these bolts started. All right, we got our water pump on there. These bolts, they need to be torqued down to 8.7 pounds, and there is a sequence. You just start here, and it goes in a clockwise motion around. So start here and then just go all the way around. So let's get those torqued down, then we can flip the motor back over, torque down our oil pan, torque down our oil pump, and then I need to head to the store. All right, guys, we got everything torqued down that we put on today. I'm gonna run to the store and get a new thermostat so I can get the thermostat and that housing on there. I'm not really sure how much further we can get today without the heads. So that might be all I get done, but we'll find out when I get back. Alright guys, I just went to the parts store and picked up a new thermostat. Here's the one I went with. It was a little more expensive than some of the other ones, but I figured why cheap out on something as important as this. So it came with the gasket already on there, all ready to go in. The only thing you got to remember is this little guy right here needs to be facing up. So let's get that on there real quick. All right, this is probably one of the easiest things to install. So the gasket's already on there, so we're just gonna set this in there, make sure that little thing's up. All right, that's on there. Then we got our housing, 2 bolts. And these bolts are gonna be torqued down to 5 foot-pounds, so that equals out to 60 inch-pounds on our little torque wrench here. All right, it doesn't get much easier than that right there. So I think the next thing I'm gonna do is probably screw in my head studs here. But I got a couple errands to go run, so I might get to that tonight. If I don't, then we'll just do that tomorrow and see maybe what else we can do without our heads. But I really don't think that there is much more I can do without the heads here. That's gonna do it for me today, guys. Hopefully a couple more of these videos and we'll have this motor together. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you want. I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching.